a lot of people have had various negative things to say about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. And I don't entirely disagree with a lot of those things. But I also think it's interesting when I watch the show. I personally enjoy the show. I think it's pretty cool. There's some things that are great, there's some things that are mediocre, and there's some things that are probably just poorly done. But the point that I wanted to make is that we have a tendency to judge things based on how content creators and people on social media and things like that interpret them. So if we see a lot of negative feedback, then we sort of go into it with a bad taste in our mouth. I kind of felt like that with Black Desert Online. You know, I thought, well, it's not a very good game. It's not really the MMO to play, just because a lot of people's feedback kind of seemed to be more or less in that ballpark. But then when I actually gave the game a try, I thought, you know, I actually kind of like it more than I expected I would. And then to contrast that, I remember getting into Final Fantasy XIV a while ago, and I tried to play that game. I tried to enjoy it, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like the story. I didn't like the graphics that much. There was just a lot of things where I just kept on hitting pain points and starting to feel like, you know, I'm not enjoying this experience very much. But then I felt like I should enjoy the experience because there were a lot of content creators and a lot of people that were kind of hyping the game and making like it was, you know, the best thing since sliced bread. So it's easy in that sort of a situation to think, well, if everyone else is enjoying the experience, then why am I not having a very good experience in the game? Why do I feel like it's not particularly fun? Or you know, it can go the other way too, that you just feel like you're not going to enjoy something and it's not even worth giving it a try because a lot of people just have already given you the preconception that it's not going to be good. So really my point is not about Lord of the Rings or BDO or anything specific other than to say I think it's important that we make up our own minds about things. And if you see for yourself first and then figure out, you know, do you like something? Do you not like it? Are you having a good experience with it? If you are, then continue to invest in it. If you're not having a very good experience, then maybe not. But don't let other people's opinions of something completely cloud your perception of it. And I know it's that way with a lot of things. Peer pressure is a real thing. And you know, if you didn't have things like Facebook and to some degree YouTube and all of these sort of social media platforms, I'm not saying they're bad, you know, like we're all here on YouTube, but if we didn't have those platforms to use as a tool for judging each other and judging developers and companies and products, you know, what kind of conclusions would we reach? Would our conclusions be a little bit different? Would they be more critical in some cases and maybe less critical in others? Probably, because we would be making our decisions based on our own conclusions instead of just aligning with some sort of a bandwagon and then jumping on it. And like somebody brought this up, and I think it's a really good point. Like, we talk about the problems of woke stuff in games and media because there's too much of that going on. But then there's also the risk of friendly fire, where you look at something and just jump to the conclusion that it's a problem because there's other things that are similar happening which maybe are problematic. Like a good example of this would have been in a game like what was it? You know, Star Wars Outlaws, I guess I understand it is, that they have this sort of an ugly female character that was put in there as the protagonist, and you know, it's kind of clear that it's probably basically like it was, you know, more or less going to be a male character, like a Han Solo kind of a character, and then someone decided, oh well, you know, let's make it a woman because we want to be inclusive or whatever. And maybe that's true, right? Because there's a lot of examples of people in studios trying to just check a mark on a list to make sure that they're meeting their inclusion quota, and that's obnoxious, and nobody likes that. But then what is the possibility that there's just a legitimate game with a female character, and then someone says, oh well, you know, that's a DEI thing? Well, maybe, but not necessarily. And you know, so sometimes you can reach the wrong conclusion because you're already going at something with the mindset that you're expecting a certain outcome. And if you have your mind made up from the beginning, then there's not even any point in really analyzing further, because you're already going to come out with a certain opinion in the end. It's that way with politics and religion and your favorite video game or movie or whatever it might be. But you know, I think it can go both ways. Like there's this herd mentality where people won't criticize things that are just outright stupid because they feel like, you know, it's the in thing. It's you know, there's positive peer pressure supporting that thing. And then there's other times where people will rally against something because they perceive it to be a negative thing without ever actually looking to see for themselves what their interpretation of it might be. So it's not really about any one thing. It's about just looking and saying, like, what is your opinion? What kind of vibe do you get? And are you enjoying the experience of the things that you are doing and investing in and the media you're consuming? And I think this really ties in well with the notion that potentially you should spend less time probably consuming social media, less time aligning yourself with other people, and more time doing things mindfully and deliberately that you actually want to do. Because there's nothing wrong with broadening your horizon and incorporating the ideas of other people into your consideration. But it's not good, though, if other people's opinions come first. So, you know, like in the case of Rings of Power, for example, I'll watch the show. I like the show. Overall, I have a good experience with it. And, you know, yeah, maybe I'm going to still watch the video of the critic or whatever and see people ripping it apart or whatever. But I'm not going to be, you know, so determined to hate on it that I'm not able to also just watch it and see for myself and potentially, you know, have a good experience. So there's a lot of manipulation that happens because people like to tell other people what to think. And I think that's just something to be careful about, because sometimes we can get manipulated by other people and then reach the conclusion that it's our idea, it's been our idea all along. But was it really your idea, or did you just agree with something without ever actually verifying to see if it's true? So have an open mind, try different things. Don't be afraid to criticize things, but don't jump on the criticism bandwagon prematurely, I guess. And don't jump on the bandwagon of blind praise either, because usually there are two sides to every story. And things are usually not as bad or as good as the people in their respective bandwagons would have you believe. As always, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.